I'm going to give you the volleyball team's favorite drink. And we're like, okay, sure. All right. This man starts talking to us. It's like, yeah, I was watching the game earlier. I almost thought you guys were about to lose that streak. And we're like, oh.
They didn't have to pay for that.
He thinks that we're Oklahoma.
Alrighty, welcome to Softball Speakeasy's bonus episode. I am joined by my former teammates, current friends, Peyton St. George and Caroline Jacobsen. Welcome to the show. Let's give a little backstory about who these two women are. Let's start with Caroline Jacobsen. So she started her career at Duke University out of Florida, Tallahassee, Florida. Goes to Duke, then she transfers to Clemson. Boo.
Hey.
Traitor. Just
Hey.
kidding. But let me read some stats from Carol. 20th pick in the 2023 WPF draft by the USSSA Pride. Period. NFCA All-America Scholar Athlete, CSC Academic All-American, All-ACC Academic Team, third team All-ACC. Started all 61 games at Clemson, batted an average of 300 throughout her career, ton of home runs, ton of hits. And you studied political science, is that right?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, we were teammates for 2 years. 3 years?
Three.
3 years, yeah. Yay. And on the other side of the couch, Peyton St. George, PSG, another professional softball player. I should also mention, Caroline, you played for Athletes Unlimited this past year too. So we'll read Peyton's stats now. Don't fall asleep now because there's a lot of them. NFCA All-American, NFCA All-Region, All-ACC First Team, ACC Pitcher of the Week for a few weeks, Co-Pitcher of the Week 1 week.
That co in there.
All-ACC everything, All-American everything. She's going to play in her third AU season this year.
That's weird.
That's wild. I want to start with the lady to my left, directly to my left, Caroline Jacobsen. So I know we mentioned Caroline started her career at Duke, graduated undergrad from Duke, and then she made the decision to transfer to our biggest rival ever in the Clemson Tigers.
All right.
The first question I have to ask you is, which experience did you like better?
Yeah, I figured that one was coming.
I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that dead on.
You can hint if you want to blink once for Duke.
But what would you say?
I think they were both great in different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You can't compare somewhere that you were for 4 years and somewhere that you were for 1. I'll say when I got to Duke, I was 18. You kind of grow up there. You kind of form these really great relationships, obviously. And then I'm at Clemson for 1 year. So it's just like a little different in that way. I'm grateful that I went there because I do have some great friendships that came out of it.
I want to ask you the process of that. So you graduate from Duke, and actually along with a lot of your other teammates, your seniors, you graduate. You have an extra year because of COVID, and a lot of you decided you wanted to move on. And not because Duke was bad, but because you wanted different degrees elsewhere and to experience something else. So what was the process like? Did you put your name in the portal, Clemson reached out to you, or did you have your eye on Clemson, or how did that all go?
I actually went into the portal in December. It was after our fall meetings. I was probably the 3rd or 4th of my class to do it. Loved my experience at Duke, obviously met some great people, but it just kind of gives you a chance to see something else.
For sure.
And I think too, because a lot of the girls in my class were leaving, it's kind of all right, well, I'll go too. Put my name in the portal in December, and Clemson reached out that December.
Wow.
There was probably a short list of places that I really wanted to go to in terms of softball and school.
Right.
I didn't send a single email to people, which I don't recommend that strategy, but it worked out for me.
So you go to Clemson, you transfer to Clemson, you all have a great year. Y'all
Exactly.
were crushing it. And then you hosted Florida State, they swept y'all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then you go to Virginia Tech, and they won the series. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
Well. And then you and I had a conversation in Blacksburg, and we were I don't know if y'all will host. I don't know. Y'all were top 5, top 8 the whole year, and then Florida State, Virginia Tech beat you. You end up hosting at the 16th seed. You play a hard regional. Y'all crush it.
We rose from the dead that regional. We got no hit by Duke in the ACC tournament.
Ooh.
And I think at that point I'm oh no, we are not even gonna host a regional. Right. That is not what this team was supposed to be. Well, I don't know what happened in that regional. We literally came back from the dead, actually.
Dead. And then with the sad part of the story is y'all were the 16th seed, and so because of that skid, you host, but you're the 16th, so you have to go to Oklahoma.
You're in the selection show, and you're yes, we're hosting, and you're oh
yeah,
oh, but at what cost?
No, seriously, it was the selection show's rolling around. We're getting to 14, 15, 16. Some of the teams that are being dropped earlier, hosting earlier.
Yeah.
I'm oh, we're on caliber with that team. We'll for sure host. We're gonna host for sure. 14 rolls around. I'm okay, here's one more shot that we really want. Utah. I'm are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Next one, of course, I'm oh, it's gonna be us. Clemson pops up. Everyone's like cheering, and there's like videos, and there's like a few of us that are just like,
you're like happy, and then it hits you.
Like,
You're like, wait.
Granted, I think we didn't do great at the end, which obviously like leaves a taste in the selection committee's mouth.
Yeah.
But I think that we were better than the 16 seed.
The way you played at the end, for sure, you proved that. But y'all didn't really play many good teams the first half of the season.
I get it.
Yeah, it was tough. But so then you go to Oklahoma, and y'all were like one play away from taking game 2.
One pitch away.
One pitch away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like getting heckled in the outfield too by the fans. I'm like, hey now, reel it in.
God.
No, I'm not.
I do.
Also, the fans were like heckling their own players.
Really?
Allie Miklish, which one of my roommates, she was on the on deck circle, and there's like some older OU fans sitting there like, get ready to pack your bags, like yelling at her. She comes back in the dugout, and she's like, they're literally yelling at me, and I'm on deck. Then I remember the OU defense had made a couple errors in that game, and some of the fans are yelling, do something, Patty. Like, I remember that one distinctly, that they said, do something, Pat. I'm like, they're allowed to make errors once in a while.
Like, put a mid on and pants in a
come on,
belt. Get out
Patty.
there, Patty. Patty, get out
I'm
there.
like, they're fine.
And
They're doing
like
just
54
fine.
and 1
No,
at the time.
literally. They're like,
their
those girls
fielding
cannot catch a
percentage?
break though. Like, they got some high standards. Like, I'll give it. They're great.
No,
I'll give them that. They
actually.
got high standards.
This game was OU setting the NCAA all-time win streak record too.
Woo.
Yeah.
So for 48 wins, so you all
almost.
So they were down. The Sooners were down to their last strike before catcher Kenzie Hansen blasted a 3-run home run to even the score at 7 in the 7th. So OU goes up 1-0. Then they go up 2-0.
Yeah.
Back-to-back home runs.
Yeah. Like first inning too.
First inning,
First inning back, and we're like, here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah, like let's just try to survive here.
Yeah.
And so end of third, OU's up now 3-0, and then OU's up 4-0. And then Clemson infielder Maddie Moore hits a 3-run home run to cut their Tigers' deficit to 1 run. So 1-run game. So then 4-3 Oklahoma's winning, and then Clemson center fielder Mackenzie Clark gets first lead of the game with a 2-run home run in the 5th.
Yes.
And they had just put in a new pitcher, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Like
Oh.
literally
to stop the rally. Yeah.
Because I think it was Nicole May at first, who she did well. She really didn't do bad. Maddie hit a home run. Mm-hmm. Then they put in a freshman at the time, Deal, I think. And she was kind of throwing a lot of balls, kind of got out of some innings, whatever. They put in Storako, and then Mackenzie hit a home run.
Mackenzie gets a
so that was like pretty, momentum going our way when they tried to change it again.
Boom.
Boom. Yeah. So then it's 5-4. You have a 1-run lead, which is not comfortable against Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And then Aaliyah Logaleo draws a walk, scores another run with a bases loaded, 6-4. And then a 4th run of the inning. Now Clemson's up 7-4, and this is when the story gets a little
still kind
sad.
of uncomfortable.
Yeah, 7-4. But you are in the top of the 7th, 7-4 Clemson, 2 outs, 0-2 count, 0-2 count, and Kenzie Hansen hits a home run.
You just cannot elevate that pitch to that hitter in that moment. It was a storybook for them. Like, it really was.
No, that home run was like, okay, they're gonna win the national championship.
I have a funny story.
So
after obviously we end up losing that game, and some of my teammates and I, for some of us, it's like the end of our college career. Obviously,
right.
We're like, all right, we're gonna go out in Norman.
Oh God.
So we go to like downtown Norman. Some girls had been there before, so they're like, oh yeah, there's a couple bars down there, whatever. Everyone that went's 21. There's only like 6-7 of us, whatever.
For sure.
So we go to some bar, and I guess we look like athletes. We have like Aaliyah Logaleo's with us.
Okay.
And we all agreed with this. Like, Aaliyah looks like she could fit in with the OU girls.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
She's got the swagger.
Meanwhile, we have like Reedy. She's like 5'6". Like, she's little. And so we're like up at this bar, and we're talking to the guy, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to give you the volleyball team's favorite drink. And we're like, okay, sure. All right. This man starts talking to us. I was like, yeah, I was watching the game earlier. I almost thought you guys were about to lose that streak. And we're like, oh, he had like just given us like so many drinks, and we're like, oh,
for free. You didn't have to pay for them.
He thinks that we're Oklahoma. He's like, what was that thing you were carrying over your head? This is the last time I'll bother you.
God.
What was that thing you're carrying over your head? And one of the girls goes, oh, like it was part of the fence. Like every time we make it to the World Series, we take off a pad of the fence. I mean, like we had just watched them do this earlier. in the day after we lost.
All in all, you have a great experience at Clemson.
Yeah.
Although sad ending to that game and your college career, but a great college career for
Yeah.
you. Put her here. Congratulations on a
Appreciate
great
that.
college career. But I was curious about one thing about Clemson is, do they have a run test?
There's no. There's like we do like the beep test.
The beep test is pretty much you have to go out and back, and then a beep happens.
Yeah. Woo.
And then you have some time, and then it beeps again, and you go out and back. And so
Yeah.
after a long time of doing that, you're
But it
obviously-
progressively gets quicker
that's
as
a
you're
good point.
going.
It progressively gets quicker as well, and so then by the end you're hurting. Let's talk about the Duke run test, because this was a huge part of our lives for 4 years. We had to do it every time we got to campus, and then every time we came back from winter break, and then for some reason every Thanksgiving I felt like we did it as well.
Yeah, we did.
As a let's see where you're at
Yeah.
before you go home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. So for folks who don't know, the run test at Duke is 53 yards out, 53 yards back, 18 seconds. You have a minute break, and you have to pass 16 out of 18 of those. And it doesn't, maybe it does sound hard to the viewers, but it was hard unless you've trained for it. So let's go back way further. So I played my freshman year at James Madison University, and I'm in the process of transferring.
And I think Coach Young was kind of just like, I don't think I can find 20 freshmen to put a roster together. So she's looking for transfers, looking for grad transfers. And then my parents, God bless them, they're like, Raine Wilson has to be on this team.
Because we played at high school together. Yes. For anyone who doesn't know, we played in high school.
And so we pull some clips. We make a little skills video for Raine.
So nice.
We send it off to Marissa.
I never even saw it.
Oh, I don't think I did. I think my dad just put his blood, sweat, and tears into cutting GoPro clips together. So we send it off to Marissa, and she's like, yeah. Like, we just got to check Raine's admissions. Raine's very smart. There was no doubt in my mind.
The moment I found out was because I got added to the group message. The Duke softball group message. I was like, Mom, Dad, I made it.
So we're all happy. We're celebrating. This was months before I had to be there.
Yeah.
I remember Marissa sent an email to my parents, probably in April, sometime around then, saying, hey, we're all excited for you to be here. Team 1, you actually have to be here on like June 20th.
Yes.
Or like June something. I'm getting ready to go. Obviously, I have to leave right after I graduate. I don't really get a summer, but I'm like pretty pumped I get to go.
Yeah.
So this is like April. She sends it out. You get added to the team probably like May.
Yeah.
Late May, like it's getting close. So we're celebrating you joining the team, and then it hits me. I'm like, the run test. I'm like, Raine doesn't know about the run test. And so I call Raine. I'm like, hey, like it's exciting. I'm like, there's this one thing that we have to start doing. We have to be there in a month. So there's this thing we have to do. And I'm like, it's no big deal. It's our run test. And so I explain it, and we're kind of like, we're feeling good.
No,
we're like,
I was so stupid and naive. I literally, at the time I was living in Harrisonburg where JMU was, and I was doing CrossFit every day. And at JMU, we lifted, like I was 10 times stronger than I ever was at Duke, but I was also overweight and eating like burgers and chicken nuggets every day, which no offense to anyone who does that, but I was not in cardio shape at all. And so you tell me, and I'm doing CrossFit every day, and I'm like,
no biggie.
I'm like, dude, it's fine.
It's fine.
I was like, don't worry about it. And so then I was like, she's freaking out over nothing. And I was like, I have to be there in 4 weeks, whatever. So then literally that day in the middle of the summer, 85 degrees outside, I go to the field hockey field at JMU, and I'm like, I'll just do it here. I'll just like do the entire test just to prove that I can, and then I'll be done. Like then I'll have to stress about it.
You were going to rep out 16 gassers.
Yeah.
Just
so
like that.
Literally first rep, as I'm about halfway back, I hear the bell. As I'm literally, I go down, I turn around, I'm literally not even like, I can't even throw a ball and hit the timer. I hear the bell, and I was like, that was weird. Maybe that was off. And I was like, okay, that wasn't too bad. And then the 60 seconds goes by like that. I do the next one.
Yeah, a minute sounds long, but it's not.
I go down, I do the next one. I come back, don't make it, not even close. I try to go one more. I literally stopped halfway and laid on the ground. Then I get on the ground, and I'm like, I'm so screwed. I get on the ground, I'm like, I gotta go home. So I like crawl back to my car. My stomach is hurting really bad. And then I get into the car and I start driving home. I had to stop on the way home, run into the Sheetz gas station, and lay on the floor of the bathroom and put my feet up because I thought I was going to pass out while I was driving.
Gassers.
And so then I was like, I am in trouble. So I just started running on the treadmill every day.
It was a
got
big
better
thing.
and better.
I remember my dad's like just kind of nudging me as it's getting closer, like, hey P, like you should be at the football field running, like why don't you bring your sister down there, why don't you guys go run together? So I'm like, all right. So I explained to my sister Avery, shout out, I'm like, so I have to run from this cone to this cone, like you just start the timer, whatever. So we're running. I don't think I get through 4. Like, yeah, no, it was bad. And I come back home and I'm like telling my sister, like we did 10, okay? Like we did fine. So I'm thinking my sister's got my back, like, so my dad's not gonna be mad. So we go home and we walk in the door. My dad's like, how was your workout? I look over, my sister goes, workout. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, 10, what happened to 10? She's like, she didn't even get to 5. And I'm like, great. I'm about to be out here with him until I have to leave. But it was no joke. Yeah. We also have the rule where you can't put your hands on your hips. Oh my God. You can't go here. You can't go here. So it just turned into iterations of like, let me grab my jersey. And then they're like, get your hands off your jersey. So then I'm like, we got transfers over here in child's pose. And I'm like, hey dude, you can't do that. Like, you got to get up. It was more mental. Like, you'd be like 1 down, 15 to go. And it was like not very motivating.
Yeah. Which brings me to the question is to choose or to choose not to do a run test. Where do you all lie on what coaches should do? Should you have a run test or should you not?
If you had asked me this question any second of my 5 years of college, I would have said,
no.
Stupidest thing ever, not worth it. Like, what? Like, you're suffering for what? We run 60 feet. Like, it's too much. But now, looking back, I think I have an appreciation, or not around the physical stuff of it, but like the camaraderie you build. Yeah. Like, you have to train on your own. It's just like you hold yourself accountable, and then you complete something so daunting that you're like, you just feel closer. So, and when you're doing it, you're like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Yeah. Why are we running? But then you can kind of get an appreciation for what it did for your culture and stuff.
The training on your own part is huge because you have to spend time doing it.
I was going to say, I think transferring, like, it gives you a lot of perspective, kind of like you said, like after being out of college, I think seeing what 2 different programs are like, it kind of gives you perspective on each of them. Yeah. So that is one thing that I agree. I think a run test, although it doesn't directly necessarily translate to the sport, it kind of does like set a standard though for how, like, not how everybody should be or whatever, but it just like sets a standard of like toughness, like you said, or like some goal that you have to reach. Yeah. And while I think the run test sometimes, like, it's so much easier for some people than others. Right. Because of speed and not necessarily because of like lack of effort or lack of trying. So it's like, I get the faults in that part, that it's not really their fault that they struggle with it more than others do, but it does like set the standard of how that program is going to be.
And Raine, you said like working at like the period between when you're home by yourself is like a make it or break it for some teams. It's where we would come back at Duke, and if like in your mind you're at home, like, it's not that you can't take a break, you're just like, I have to be able to pass the run test, because if I don't pass, I don't play in January. Right. So you just know, like, when people come back and they are not in run test shape, it's like, what were you doing over break? What, like, are you not bought in? Like, so it's almost like, not that people that don't have run tests don't work hard over break. Yeah. But it was something that we could all still work towards when you're by yourself. But it's like, dude, like, I remember Marissa being like, if your pitchers don't pass the run test, you weren't holding them accountable enough. So it's like, it makes you be a leader, and also some way where it's like, dang, if my pitchers don't pass, like, I'm taking that. Yeah. And so it's like, people are doing stuff over break, which is also good. And as a coach, you can be like, my girls are working. Yeah.
And whenever you talk about camaraderie, it's like, I remember there were so many times where we'd be doing conditioning, not even just the run test, but just conditioning in general. And we'd be doing it silent. And our strength coach would just keep making us run until people started talking and like cheering for each other and kind of like pushing each other, being there for one another. And then he's like, that's all I was waiting for. Thank you. All right, you're done.
We're like, when are we going to be done? And then one person's like, you got it. And he's like, wrap it up.
It's also just used to push yourself in general. And I bring that up because Raine here used to push herself very hard.
Very hard. Too hard.
And I like whenever we would do the run test, it was usually us 3 kind of near each other because we're kind of like similar.
Like, let's pace each other.
Yeah.
And then Raine would leave us in the dust.
No, I remember that. I don't know if this was just like a normal conditioning or if this was
the way Raine breathes.
No, that too. That too.
I don't even know how I breathe.
I don't. She's running and like, oh yeah.
Like, no, on a much more crazy scale.
But I remember one that I don't know if this was like a run test or just a normal conditioning, that you just, I guess, weren't feeling it that day, like just not feeling well in general. So as we were doing it, Raine is like the light is seeping from Raine's eyes, like she's like about to pass out.
On the track?
I don't remember, but
That's all I
no,
know. I know
the
that
track
one.
is. I think this is different. I think this because I don't think I was there for that one, but this is.
I don't
It probably
remember
happened
this.
multiple times.
You don't
But, like,
remember because you were unconscious.
Yeah.
But I just remember being like, "Hey, Raine, like I don't think they're gonna be mad if you sit one out." Like she's like slobbering,
Oh, I believe
like
it.
pass it. Like you were about to
I was
pass
a
out,
mess.
but you're
I
like,
actually
"No, I'm
remember
still
you
going."
being-
I'm like,
yeah. You're like, I gotta
"Good for you,
finish.
good for you." And
You're
she
like,
did.
dude, stop.
Like I think they're gonna be okay if you like take one off. Like I think they'd rather you not pass out here, but
I was like, no. Yeah. I took myself a little too seriously. But yeah, foundational part of our team. And the thing is too about it, like a lot of people failed a lot. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
like an easy thing it was every time you went, y'all never failed a run test, did you?
No.
I remember one run test. We finished the entire thing. Everyone passed.
yeah.
Everyone passed. All good. We like
Woohoo!
clap it up. We're like we're all like hugging each other.
And we
stuff.
got our gear after you passed.
You get your gear. Like it's a big deal.
It's a big
It's a
deal.
big deal. And so we all passed. So we thought, and we like get in the circle, and one of our coaches, not gonna say who it was like, you know what? 4 of you did not actually touch the line 4 times. So you, and you failed. We were like, what? And we were like, you didn't even tell them during the test so they could make up for it. Because you have 2 reps at like 16 out of 18. So you have 2 opportunities if you don't pass one.
And like 2 of these girls could have done it in their sleep.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say the one where we accidentally did it like 2-3 feet too short, so then we had to do it.
We had to do it again.
Of course.
We were like, wow, we are in so much shape. Like, this is easy.
Well, everyone passes, we're like, woohoo.
No, when everyone passes on the first time, the
We're
coaches are like,
wait a
something's
second.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something's wrong.
Adversity. How are we going to cake in some adversity here? We're baking some adversity. Definitely early on, that was like our only success at the time.
It's all we had.
It's all we had was passing the run test in the fall that we had never played a game. So I want to read out the records of the teams that we were on together, us 3 all together. So 1 through 4. Well, you weren't on team 1, but team 1 went 29-27. Winning record.
500.
About 500. Pretty good. Team 2. Team 2 went 25-31.
Oh, God.
Tough year.
You don't know pain until you've lost 30 games.
31 games. Not a good year. And we went into that year with the goal to win 40. So that
Just
was
a shy 9.
humbling experience. when you get to a point in the season and you have to count out that you have to win every single game left. And then
and you
plus
have
4.
3 against Florida State.
That was like the
3
end of our.
We're like, guys, if we sweep Florida State, we can do it. And we really
can get
thought
to 40.
we could.
And then if we win out and go to Oklahoma City, we could get 41. Like, yeah, no way. So then team 2 to team 3. Team 3, we go, this is COVID year, 23-4.
We were sick.
We were sick. We almost won the same amount of games.
That's
half
crazy.
the year.
And half the year.
So I want to ask you both, what changed in your mind from team 2 to team 3?
So we had an entirely new coaching staff, except Coach Young. I mean, she cleared house. Like we had a whole new staff in there. And so obviously you're working with a lot of new people. For the first time, Coach Young was in the bullpen a lot more. Mm-hmm. And we had Kyle Brady coming in. Like we're just working with a lot of different people. And I think I remember being in one of our very first games. And I remember the count was 0-2 on someone. And I just remember Josh Bloomer, shout out, being like, don't be afraid to miss. And in my head, I'm like, that is the first time I've ever heard someone frame an 0-2 count, the worst count you could be in a way that's like still aggressive.
Yeah.
And so it just became this whole thing of like we were playing with so much fear of messing up or the consequence or whatever, that for the first time I'm like, we are so aggressive. Like our practices got quicker. We started doing a lot more game-like stuff, super high tension situations. Our pitching staff got so much better. And it was just for the first time, like, obviously you come back, no one wants to lose 30 games again.
Yeah.
And it was like we didn't have all the talent we had the first 2 years.
Yeah.
But this year we had talent, we had culture.
Yeah.
Our culture was the best it ever was. And like we were just like, we have literally nothing to lose. And I think the new coaching staff that came in was just like, we are full steam ahead. Like, we're aggressive. And then obviously things just started going our way and it just progressively got better. But like, we just had it. Like, our culture was so good. And I keep saying culture, but
it's true.
That was a big thing. It's our culture.
It's true.
And I think on top of that, like, she's talking about aggressive pitching. I think it was kind of similar. Hitting.
Yeah.
I think we had a philosophy, whereas not as much so the first year, or my freshman year, I guess. So I think that kind of gave us a lot of confidence, as hitters. But then I also remember conversations that we had with our team sports psychologist, our school sports psychologist. Yeah. And I remember us talking about what we were looked at in the ACC. Like, everyone's like, yeah, they're young, they're scrappy. But what did we want to be?
Yeah.
And I remember that being this big conversation for us of we know how people perceive us as they're playing Duke.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
we didn't want that anymore. Yeah. So I think kind of all these things combined, it was the perfect moment for a change. And then as we continued to do well in the season, it was just confidence built and built and built.
Yeah.
And I think what made us successful that year too is we were ready for change. We really wanted something different. Whereas I think when new coaches come into places, there's already that culture that they're used to. So they're a little bit kind of hesitant. And I remember being on the phone with Coach Bloomer before he came, and I was like, we want you to change everything.
Yeah, we didn't really have a culture.
And he was like, I'm not coming in there to change swings. I'm like
yes, please.
Change mine. Let's start with me, actually. Can I send you video? And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And and I don't remember if y'all know, I don't know if y'all remember that first defensive practice we had where he was hitting balls. And oh my God, remember he would stand at second base, or he would stand as the runner, and throws would come by his nose, and he'd just be and he was just everything was so intense, but you also felt like it wasn't them against us. Yeah. It was everything us against had everyone.
An intention too.
Yeah.
They talked to us like adults. They were like, we are doing this because. So you're like, all right, things are starting to make sense. But he just knew his stuff.
Yeah, he's good.
You're like, at first you're like, weird drill, but you're like, yeah, it makes sense. I see why I'm doing this. Yeah. Or it'd be the most whack stuff. Then you get to it at the bottom of the 7th inning, and that whack situation comes up, and you're like, we've practiced this.
Yeah.
We're ready.
Yeah. And he also was willing to have a conversation about it. We would argue.
He welcomed us to challenge him.
Yes.
That was another big thing. A lot of coaches do not like when players challenge them.
And he was like, okay, let's talk about it.
Let's talk.
He was usually right, but
He's like, I just want to see what argument you're going to come up with today.
Yeah, for real. So we went 23-4. Of course, COVID cut that year, which was so sad because we were in the not in the locker room. We were in the weight room, about to play Florida State, about to prove to the world who we were.
We're like, they're not coming. They forfeit.
Yeah.
They're not getting on the plane.
And then it ended.
And then,
But then Team 4 comes around. And we build on the year that we had in Team 3. Almost everyone comes back. We add freshmen. And we had a super, super solid year. 44-12. ACC champs. Let's go.
Oh,
ACC tournament champs. Gotta make that clear. Not regular season.
Not the regular season.
Not regular season. But we beat Florida State for the first time. Thanks to Carol. He started off that inning against Captain City. Drop ball, line drive
we
the
beat them.
Yeah. How do you remember that?
Because I remember us having a conversation, and I was like, "You've got this, bro."
Oh,
they put Kat in to close it out, and we're like, "Now's our time."
And you just sat on that drop ball and just
thanks,
boom.
Man.
Anyways, ACC champs. We'll see if Duke Team 7 can be ACC champs. That's what I want to ask you about next. So now Team 7, in some polls, they're top 5 in the country. They're number 5 in the country. And I want to ask you, what would the score be if Team 1 played Team 7?
Oh, God. I say 16-1.
16-1.
We scrape a run.
What's your final score?
I mean, because I wasn't there, but I watched some.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely a run rule, maybe like a 13-1 Raine Wilson solo home run.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Coach Young would have to be doing a little step off the bases with Team 7.
Yeah. So although we are recent grads, right, in the last 3 years, we all graduated, a lot has changed about the college softball landscape. For example, now recruits are oftentimes tweeting their workouts, what they're doing, their offers. What are y'all's thoughts on recruits either tweeting out their workout videos or tweeting out what offers they've gotten? What do you think about that?
If you have to tweet a video of your box jumps, you're not working hard. What are you doing? I'm just so glad I was not in that era of recruiting. Because if you have to be like, work out on a Saturday morning or watch me do a box jump, that's what you're supposed to be doing, okay? Like, no coach is going to see that and be like, she works really hard. Now, if you're tweeting out a video of you hitting BP on the field, like that one girl, that one went viral or something, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. I want to see that stuff. Stop tweeting your damn workouts, okay? Like, I'm so sick and tired of it. Like, that is not how you get recruited. Everyone's doing that.
Okay, but there was a camp one time when we were at Duke, and I remember asking the campers kind of about, like, tweeting their workouts, using Twitter as a recruiting tool. And it was like they explained that because of COVID and coaches weren't able to come to their games, so all the games kind of started being broadcasted, and that was kind of their way to reach out to coaches and also kind of get some validation from coaches. Like, whereas we were able to go to these camps and like talk and
see them.
Like, they didn't necessarily have that. So while I don't necessarily enjoy going on Twitter and seeing like that being on my Twitter feed, but I get it. I get why they're doing it.
Also, if you both were in that era, do you think
We
you would?
would
You'd
have
be doing
to.
It's the
it.
norm.
You'd be behind.
Yeah.
It's just like, I like the videos where it's like, hey, watch me PR on a deadlift. I'm like, dang, like that's like good. Like you're growing whatever. It's like, it's the videos that's like 7 seconds of like the girl being like Saturday morning workout, and it's like a video of her doing one box jump. I'm like, what is that? Like, you're just watering down the Twitter recruiting space.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm glad I am not in that era.
For sure. Me too.
Because we would have to. We would have to tweet that stuff.
But they don't have to have YouTube recruiting videos.
That
I'm sure if you looked up 99%
Hi, my name
of the
is Peyton
Duke.
St. George. I have a 3.75 GPA.
I've seen it. We've all seen it.
I actually had a 4.0, so
We've
not
all
a
seen them though.
3.75.
Those are in some ways just as bad. Like,
They're worse.
just as a little awkward.
They're
a little
worse.
awkward.
So my dad used to give me before every tournament, and this is what I hate. Like, as a high schooler, you can't really appreciate this, but your parents are really trying.
Yeah.
My dad would print out a list of, I swear to God, every D1 school in the country, or every school that was going to be at the camp or tournament I was going to be at. It was every school and every staff member at the school. And he'd be like, before we go, you got to write your emails. And so as a child, you're like, that's 260 some email. I remember we were about to go to Alabama, some Birmingham tournament or something. And there's about 260 some emails. So I'm sitting in bed for hours, like livid that I'm like, copy, paste, whatever. So I storm in the kitchen and I'm like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with your stupid little email. Like, I throw the packet down. I'm done. I'm not doing this ever again. I hate this. I don't even know if I want to play softball in college. Stupid stuff. So then my dad's like, all right, let's roll back through. Like, let's make sure. So obviously the top school in alphabetical order is Alabama. So I write out the email. I say, this is what I am, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, I'm like, roll Tide. Best, Peyton St. George. And so I realize on the very last email, 263rd email, it says, Roll Tide. I put Roll Tide on every email. Like, I forgot to change it. And my dad's like, P, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you just better play really well this weekend. I remember being like, that's the last email I ever will write.
Do kids still do that?
I don't know.
I know some kids are getting creative. Like, Coach Young got like an edible arrangements one time.
I love that.
And I'm like, whoa. Or like a postcard with like their face. I'm like,
oh yeah, Christmas
I love
card.
this.
I know.
Yeah.
They're getting real creative out there.
And so she'd let us come in and, eat whatever sweet treat the recruit or the camper
or like a
that
gift
weekend.
box. Good for them. These
know.
people are getting really creative. And speaking of differences in the game and new things that we're not accustomed to, I want to get your thoughts on face masks. So apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently they're becoming more and more popular. So what are your thoughts on face masks in the game?
I wore a face mask in college for about 2-3 weeks. Gotta do what you gotta do.
I am not a fan of face masks.
Okay. For you or for everyone?
That's such a subjective topic. I think I don't know. I don't want photos of myself in a face mask. That's me.
There's the truth,
That's
folks.
what it's all about.
But also, like, just something on my face. I remember I wore a face mask all through high school. And then I remember I'd go to a travel tournament and this mom brings out these like team branded visors. This was like the first time I ever wore a visor. And I remember putting my visor on and going to pitch, and I was like, I'm free. My face is free. And of course, my parents were like, your braces cost $5,000. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm not putting the face mask back on. But my fifth year, I got a stinger back to my face, the hardest hit ball I've ever gotten. And it was one of those, you put your glove up and you feel it hit your hand.
Yeah.
And for a hot moment, I was like,
You thought you were going to die.
do we have any face masks in the equipment room? Because that was scary.
Yeah.
But I know, like, obviously you get hit in the face and it becomes like important. So luckily I never got hit in the face, but I'm not a fan. And I don't care if other people wear them. It's your safety, your protection.
Yeah. You don't feel like it's wussy or like whatever wimpy to do it.
If an outfielder's wearing a face mask.
If it's a little kid, like,
and if it's a little kid, that's fine.
I think it's almost like when in the MLB they used to not wear helmets batting. And at the time they were like, why would you wear a helmet? And then over time they realized, we should be wearing helmets. Like, it's silly not to. And I think like that's kind of how I see face masks for pitchers and for even third basemen and corners, anywhere in the infield. Like, I just don't find it worth it. I never even wore one, not one time. But if it makes someone play better and they're more comfortable and not scared, like there were plenty of times in my career where at third I was scared because of how close I was to the batter, trying to play bunt defense when they swing away.
The bats, I feel like the bats are going to be at a place where they are just too hot to not wear one, if you're a pitcher at least. Because even the professional space, like, a lot of people still wear face masks. It's like, I don't want to take a ball off the face. That could kill you.
Also, getting older too. Like, as a kid, you're malleable. You can bounce back.
Yeah.
Like, but like in your mid-20s, you take one wrong hit to the head, and it can change your entire life.
I think batters are silly to not have
the full thing.
The full thing. You can't control the pitcher. You can't control a foul ball in your face. I think if you're a batter, you don't have it.
Right.
Not that it's silly. It's just like you really don't. You trust
it's
yourself
just not
that
worth
much?
it.
No, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. But to each their own. If someone feels more confident and they feel better, they play better, then do whatever you want. I mean, go for it.
I mean, we also had a teammate, Christina Foreman. We watched firsthand her hit a foul ball into her face in surgery very next day, like steel plates in her face, talking about having to get her whole face reconstructed. Like, it didn't even happen to us, and it was traumatic. And so after that, everyone started putting their face masks on. But
they didn't really make it an option right after that happened. There was only 4 girls on the team at that point that had the flap instead, and they were like, nope.
So you both are in AU, Athletes Unlimited, which is a professional softball league that is focused on the individual point scoring. So I wanted to ask you both about AU. Is it weird to play as an individual? Like, is it weird to be conscious of, like, your own performance? Is that kind of counterintuitive for both of you or no?
No, because that was the one thing they didn't want to happen when they set it up that way. You make the majority of your points with team wins and inning wins. The people at the top of the scoreboard are people that have won the most games.
Got it.
You cannot rely, unless you are hitting 2 home runs a game, unless you're like a Deja Malipola or Mia Davidson, where your home runs can make up for points with games you've lost maybe.
Right.
There's no way you as an individual could go through the game and just rack up points. Or you're like a pitcher that hits, but you still have to win games. Like, you get so many more points when you win. And then if you also do well, you're hitting home runs, you're striking everybody out, you're just going to rise even higher.
Right.
So, I mean, Carol's a hitter, so I don't hit, so.
Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, I think I was also just kind of, like, happy to be here. Yeah. So I wasn't, like, overly concerned about my individual points.
Right. What is the biggest misconception that people might have about playing professional softball? Like, when you tell people, oh yeah, I play professional softball in the summers, what do they think when you say that typically?
People have this conception of to be professional, it has to kind of be like a full-time job. It's what you do for most of the year.
Yeah.
But that's just not the case.
Yeah. Does it feel, and this maybe you just kind of answer this, but does it feel like a job or does it feel like fun or both? And like, what percentage of each?
I feel like I'm in such a different position than a lot of people in AU, because there are people in AU that will go international for the other 9 months of the year. They come to AU, and there are people who treat it like a job, and they can do that because they can travel, they can go play other places. For me, it's like I have my full-time job, and AU is something that I say it's my professional hobby. Like, it's something I do for fun because I can. I can still afford to play the game I love. My job, essentially lets me. Like, I work for a sports company. My work doesn't falter, so they let me play. And so to me, it's not a job. It's something that I am able to do, can still do. I have a flexible lifestyle enough to do. But there are people who rely on that as their sole source of income. And so you can very quickly see the people that really rely on that, and that is their job. Like, not that they treat the game any different. It's just we have very different mindsets in terms of if something doesn't go well, I feel like I'm just like, hey, I'm just here like Carol said. I'm happy to be here. I'm having fun. I love the girls I'm with or the women I'm with. And there are some people who are like, I need to win games. Yeah. Like my bonus is relying on how many games I win. And so some people are kind of pressed. And so I feel like that we're pretty lucky in terms of like it's something we do for fun. It's not necessarily something we apply a lot of pressure to or for ourselves, because college is all like that. It's nice to play softball, kind of pressure free essentially, but
you two are afforded the opportunity to have fun playing AU. Some play it as a job, but I'm sure it's joyful for them too. So I was gonna ask, at what age playing softball did you have the most joy?
I mean, I think college. And I think about this sometimes, like, you know how you can watch old games on YouTube, like where it's like little cut up clips of just like, I don't know, good games that we had. I think some of the most fun parts is like watching your teammates have success. And it's like these people that you built such a bond with. Like, for example, like, I don't know, we're playing, it's like you hit a home run, this big moment. It's like everybody's so hype, and you don't really get that anywhere else, where it's like this full commitment into each other and into this team and into this team success. That I think that's some of the things that I'll miss the most, like playing with those people.
If I hadn't gone through all of my college career, my answer might be different, because I am so glad that I'm not glad, but like I'm just so like fortunate that we experienced losing 31 games, and then we experienced being a top 10 team, ACC champion, losing less than 10 games. Like, if we don't see the other side of that coin, we just have the losing 30 games. My answer is so different, but like it was just so cool to be on both sides of that and be like, dang, like we were in the trenches and now we feel like we're on top of the world. Like that really was the pinnacle of our careers. And then to have something to show for it, like an ACC championship, or you go to a super, like there's no one I would rather lose to than Megan Frame at UCLA. Are you kidding me? To end my career there when we were losing 31 games 3 years ago? Like, I'm fortunate for that girl to end my career. I mean, there's no place I would rather be. Obviously, we want to win those games, but it's like, if we don't see both sides of that, we don't appreciate the top 10 rankings and the wins as much as we did. So it was cool to just see both sides of the coin, like the worst and the best.
I think one of the coolest things about our experience at Duke is we all committed to Duke not expecting. Like that's not what we committed to Duke for. And obviously, while we ultimately want to make it to the World Series, and I think had kind of accepted at some point, like, yeah, that might not be what happens in our time. I literally remember my first year, which is the 31 loss year. We like go to the ACC tournament, lose the first game, and it's like, all right, sign up for your exit meetings. Like, we are not gonna, there's no point to watch the selection show together. Like, we're not making it. And I remember thinking, man, am I ever gonna make the postseason in general? To then finish my career, Peyton's career, at a super regional at one of the most historic fields at UCLA. Like, I just think that's such a special thing that we kind of got to almost change the culture at Duke when that's not even what we committed there for.
Yeah. And it was like pretty much the same group of people, like the same group of core people. And I think one day a switch just flipped, and it's like, no, like I don't give a crap that we're only 3 years old. Like, we are capable. And like that, I know that starts from coaching and trickles down, but it's like, it's just crazy that we used to be like, is there ever a day that we're going to be top 64? We go to the NCAA tournament. Like, we have to do a lot for that. Now Duke is like, oh, we're hosting our second super regional probably this year. And they're like, oh, this is like nothing new. It's crazy.
Who is your pick to win the national championship this year?
It's going to end up being Oklahoma. I'm not. No, let me talk. My gosh. I think it's going to probably end up being Oklahoma. However, Here's a hot take of a team that I think is really, really good.
Ooh.
Washington.
Ooh.
I think they've come out the gates really, really good.
See,
so maybe they'll surprise some people.
I was going to say
Texas. I think you're spot on. I think Washington's good. I think Texas is good.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I think Oklahoma gets beat on the road to the Natty.
On the road? Not
Which round? Regionals, super regionals?
I would like to see Oklahoma get knocked out.
It's
in the
not what you
Super.
like to see.
What do you think?
What do you think?
I think, I don't know. Their experience will ride them far. I think they could get knocked out early in the Women's College World Series.
I think depending on who they get matched up with in the Supers.
I think a pitcher could really overpower them. Can they do it twice?
I don't know.
No.
I think OU drops a game in
No.
Supers.
No, they can't.
No.
I don't.
No.
Well, thank you so much, Caroline Jacobsen, Peyton St. George, professional athletes, amazing friends, for coming on the pod. Love you guys. Thank you so much for watching, listening, viewing, and subscribing to Softball Speakeasy. You can follow us at SB Speakeasy. New episodes every single Wednesday with a couple bonus episodes mixed in, like this one here. And we'll see you next week on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Woo!